Happy late New Year from your favorite West Virginia in space here. And one of the things that has already taken this year by storm, despite the fact that it's only a few days into it, is of course the fact that Mickey Mouse has now joined the public domain. Well, specifically the Steamboat Willie version and one of the short, but you know what I mean. And this is a big shock to a lot of people, as a lot of us never thought it was going to happen. I mean, it came as quite a shock to me, but of course we can get into that later. However, there have been both upsides and downsides to this massive shakeup within the content creator community, and of course the rising resurgence of public domain characters as a side effect, and other interesting information. So how about we talk about that in today's first video of the new year. Now, of course, since there's been a lot of stir about it, and sadly not everyone's informed about it, what is the public domain? Well, the public domain is basically when a piece of media is not copyrighted by a particular person or entity, and therefore anyone can use it. Kind of like communism, except it actually works. is that now a lot of media is in the public domain. This is actually a bit of a misconception that some people I've seen have, where only a few pieces of media are. A lot of them are. Newer media, very rarely, but old stuff vary. It obviously includes any book that's old. You know what I mean? A lot of older books and pieces of media like Shakespeare and such have fallen, ancient Greek myths and all that jazz, and pretty much any mythology also falls in the public domain. This is why anyone could say make a Thor comic. However, that is an important distinction, because not everything is in the public domain, even if a character is. A perfect example, like I said previously, is Thor. Now, Thor, the mythological figure, is in the public domain. Anyone can make comics about Thor because he's a mythological figure. Any version of copyright he could possibly have has long since expired. So I could right now pick a pen and make my own Thor comics, and Marvel can't do jack to stop me. However, Marvel owns the distinct version of Thor in Marvel Comics, so anything invented by that comic can't be used. For an easy example, Thor in your comic, hypothetical superhero Thor comic, would have to be a redhead, or at least not blonde, because Marvel Thor is blonde. That is an invention made by the Marvel Comics version. There's tons of other differences, and it helps to look into this, but there's a lot of public domain characters that have already fallen into public domain long before Mickey Mouse has. Dracula, Sherlock Holmes, stuff like that are obviously fallen, and a surprising lot of old literary figures. And Mickey Mouse is now just the newest to join them. However, there are some caveats. This is specifically the Steamboat Willie and one other animation version I forgot, because those are the only two that have fallen into copyright as the making of this video of 2024. Others will of course fall in time, but that is how it stays for now. Disney still owns the copyright to any Mickey Mouse property made after this point. It just hasn't fallen into public domain yet. And what that means, that any changes or characterization to Mickey Mouse made after those shorts that haven't fallen into the public domain yet are not still copyright protected. So, for example, you can't make a Fantasia, I always said the name wrong, Fantasia sequel or whatever, because that is still copyrighted by Disney. It's much newer. This, of course, is a very important distinction to make whenever making copyright work. Now, of course, this isn't too hard to follow, as long as you're just clever and, know where you're getting your sources. But this is an important distinction to make. Mickey Mouse as a full character has not joined the public domain. Tons of bits of his personality are still not public domain. So if you want to make a Mickey Mouse story, you have to follow what was given to him in those original shorts, or you make up your own thing. Either one is perfectly valid in this case. And if you make up, and it is important to mention here, if I were to say, or you and me were to make a new Mickey Mouse movie, right, or short or whatever, you own the copyright to that short. Now, this is an important distinction kind of to make sometimes, is just because you make something set in the public domain does not mean anything you make with a public domain character is all of a sudden public domain. So just an easy example is if I, like I said, make a Sherlock Holmes movie, I still have the intellectual property rights to that Sherlock Holmes movie. People can't just start selling and redistributing it. So you're safe on that. It's an important distinction to make, because I've heard some people get complained by that or confused. So it's important to remember safety. So overall, it's pretty nice, and you can do a lot with the public domain, because anything can be done. You want to write a story about Mickey Mouse getting into a fight with Dracula because Sherlock Holmes died over, something else, The point is, I'm just making stuff up off the top of my hand, but overall, public domain is a great source of information and cool things you can do with, and there's a surprising amount of stuff that's in there, like Shazam. Yes, Shazam, Captain Marvel, is in the public domain. I mean, his copyright's a little bit confusing, but you can write Shazam comics and DC or Marvel can't stop you. It's kind of funny, isn't it? But there are, with all good things, sadly downsides, and one that has definitely reared its ugly head. Now, I kid you not, the day of Mickey Mouse in the public domain, like 1 or 2 different slasher movies with Mickey Mouse on it have already been announced, and Ugh, it's just, listen, okay, Blood and Honey was funny as a joke, but I haven't seen it, but, like, who legitimately wants to watch a Winnie the Pooh slasher movie? Like, I'm asking in all seriousness here, like, really, people? And it's just bizarre. It's like, and it's basically just the variation on the creepypasta thing. And I don't mean the good or interesting creepypastas, or even the one that are ironically good or ironically interesting, or the ones that have become interesting because they've been. It's just the generic. Like, ooh, what if we took children's media and made it dark? Like, what if Ed and Eddie was set in purgatory? And like, it's the kind that makes no sense, except for the fact this isn't a fan work. This is, well, public domain official, you know what I mean? And the thing is, it doesn't make it any better. Like, it's not subversive or interesting. It's just generic. It's just boring. And honestly, it's single-handedly just, stuff like this is just awful and sad, because you're taking something so interesting as a public domain and using it for probably the most generic schlock ever. Now, granted, you could say, but why can't you make a horror slasher, Mickey Mouse story? You could. It could be interesting in theory. The thing is, people who do this aren't making it to be interesting. It's a cash grab, essentially. And a very, very lazy one at that. It's not interesting or very fun. And it's honestly sad. And you get this golden opportunity, right? Because as long as I was alive, as long as most of us in the creative world were alive, no one thought Mickey Mouse was actually going to ever enter the public domain. We thought the copyright was going to keep getting extended and extended and extended, and eventually nothing would fall into the public domain anymore because they keep pushing it to keep it going. And the fact that Mickey Mouse has fallen is a massive shock, a massive opportunity. Like, do you know what stuff is going to enter the public domain in the next couple of years? Like, whoop, if unless something changes, most of us will probably live, like, based on the audience and such, live longer to see characters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Captain America enter the public domain. And, just saying this right now, when all of them enter the public domain, I'm going to make a superhero comic starring all of them in World War II, and no one can stop me. But regardless of my great plans, overall, it's just a wasted opportunity. Like, there is that one guy whose name I've sadly forgotten, who's making a whole cinematic universe based on public domain superheroes. And I have to commend him for the effort, because, like, that is the stuff you can do with public domain. There is so much you can do, and Mickey Mouse, a whole new, big, brand-name character, has now entered the fray. Now up to do whatever you want with. And this is how people want to use it. This is the first thing people will see, and this is sad, because the public domain has granted, it's been getting more popularity thanks to, once again, that same guy who's making his own superhero cinematic universe, but this is really big. This is the mainstream. Like, major news outlets are covering Mickey Mouse entering the public domain. This is a massive shift in the creative space we haven't seen in quite a while, and this could really set the stage for how the public domain is viewed, how this concept is viewed, how the concept of creativity is viewed. Maybe even in some sense too, because of how wrapped up people are in the modern day on IPs. This is a break from that. We really get to see what the true creative world can give when not boxed up by a single corporation. And if you keep making schlock like this, it's just like the bad slasher stuff, it's not going to look good. It hurts the creative space more than any amount of money they could rake in could. And you're not making them raking in that much money from what I hear. And overall, I just think it's I don't know if it's both a warning and an opportunity. It's that no matter what you do in the creative space, always try to make sure it's good. Try to make something entertaining and inspiring. Because one day, no matter how long the copyright lasts or whatever, you will die and your works will join the public domain. They will enter the creative space for all of time and in infinitum, and you will be like the legends that we take from today. And there's nothing shameful that. In fact, if anything, there's something inspiring by creating a work so good that people almost 100 years later or whatever would want to copy it, to take ideas from it and continue it. So just make sure you make something good. I think at the start of a new year, it's a good message to have. Leave behind a legacy worth people trying to copy later. But overall, that's just my thoughts. My opinions, my thoughts, all that jazz. If you please like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy, and I hope we have a great year together, and we'll get to see the growth of this channel, and you guys get to follow along my content, and hopefully I'll make content worth you guys continuing to watch. But overall, that's it for today, and I'll see you all next time. Yeah. Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're gonna become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.